Trident Wargaming. Build it, paint it, play it.
Hey everyone, Bonko here from Trident Wargaming. We just wanted to do a little bit of a PSA. We now have a Patreon account. If you are looking to support the channel and you like what we do, please consider supporting us. And we want to give a big shout out to Frederick. He is our first Patreon supporter. Thank you very much, Frederick, for your support. We really appreciate it. And we will be using everything that we get from Patreon to improve the processes here on Trident Wargaming. Thanks a lot. All right, hey everybody, welcome back to Trident Wargaming. We've got a 40k episode lined up for you tonight. I am joined with two special guests. We've got Arthur from Charging from Deepstrike Studios.
Thank you for having me once again, Bill.
You are very welcome. We've got local admic kick-ass boss and author Scotty B.
Hey, Bill.
What's happening?
Oh, you know. Just shooting the birds, you know?
All the birds.
All the birds.
So many birds.
All the time.
The dirty bird. Dirty bird of Zinch himself.
It's what Darren calls his dad's old T-bird. Was the dirty bird.
The dirty bird?
Yeah. Thing was pretty beat up.
Was it dirty?
They breathed some life into her at the end.
Yeah, a little bit.
No.
It technically moved on its own accord, so.
It did. That it did.
So today we are here to talk Warhammer 40k, not dirty birds, from what I understand. This is not a 30k podcast.
Nope.
This is not your mom's podcast. Although it could be. This is a
Could be.
Warhammer 40k podcast. This week.
Always welcome here.
I guess hobby stuff. Kicking a little bit of hobby stuff. What have you been working on, Arthur?
I have been building Tau nonstop. Last time I was on the podcast, we were talking about like favorite models, and I talked about how the Ghost Keel really inspires me. So somehow between being inspired by, I threw down $500 and I bought and built and have like 60% painted a 2,000 point Tau army, and it's been my wildest dreams come true. I have not played like a shooting army this shooty in Warhammer ever. And it's disgusting. It is gross. You have probably the most oppressive shooting phase in the game, besides maybe some Barbarinski Karskin. And it's kind of interesting because my current favorite model, the Hammerhead, you cannot take saves against it. And whenever like it normally hits, it almost always wounds. You have rerolls, and people's face when this thing connects is just like, ugh. And then you watch them roll their dice 13 wounds over, or pick their model up off the... It is the same satisfaction that D weapons used to give. Remember D weapons giving the D, slinging some D?
Yeah.
It feels good. You get to say, yeah, pick up that model and that one.
Do you ask them what their favorite model is when you start the game so you can shoot it off the board first turn?
Exactly.
Really
yeah.
demoralize them? Yeah.
Exactly.
You've had a lot of success with them. With the crisis suits, too.
That's true. I managed to get in 2 back-to-back games on our Thursday night club night against Chaos Knights this week. And I had the best game of Warhammer in my life. Probably it was the worst game of Warhammer in his life. And in about, 33 minutes, I won 97-12 when we re-racked, swapped sides, and played again. So it's been very satisfying to play this new army. I was joking, I saying it's simultaneously easier and harder than the other armies I play, because you only have one phase to really get stuff done in. But you get a lot done in that phase. However, you cannot get charged. Like, if you get in combat with your suits and you don't have a plan for that, you're fucked. So it's you really have to like get that pre-measure out. You need to know what's happening 1 turn, maybe 2 turns ahead. And it's honestly a little hard. But I've been full steam ahead on the Tau. I think I painted up a couple Eldar casters in between building because I was just so tapped out on building models. But I might even be able to play this Tau army come the end of the month at one of the upcoming tournaments.
Oof, very
Got
nice.
any of your Tau kicking around to show us here?
You know, maybe.
You got one of those devilfish or the hammerhead? Because they're looking pretty good. I know they got a long way to go, but
I was debating about doing pink or yellow as the accent colors, and so I did manage to try some of that. I don't know how it's going to show up on the camera. Not
Yeah,
well.
You can see it though.
yeah.
It's not showing like the edge highlighting or the fades enough, but we did end up deciding to do pink as the accent color. I tried yellow. Pink looked way better.
Mhm.
And I'm still kind of playing with the intensity of the pink and the tone of it. We're going to go from there.
Nice.
Cool.
Oh, nothing wrong with that at all.
What about you guys? What's been going on in your hobby world?
Well, I've kind of just been back at my admittedly much smaller pile of shame that I have going into this year than what I had last year. Still have
How
a
bad
few
was your pile of
stragglers
shame last year?
You know, like, you guys don't get to see my room, I guess, very often. But, like, I don't buy a ton of stuff, but, like, I still have a ton of stuff. You know how it is. It never seems to end, right? So, and I've always had this dream. Yeah. I've always had this dream of, like, actually having all my stuff painted. Like, we all have. However, like, this year, honestly, like, it was getting to the point where I was like, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I got, like, one, like, 2-foot shelf with probably not even 3/4 full of stuff. So I've just been chipping away at it. It's a lot of like weird models. Like I've got a few of the pieces left over from the Marine and Necron set that was at the start of 9th, like some of the characters and things. And I got a bunch of old scarabs here that I'm still working on getting done. And I've got a few AdMech models, like literally like a stray Skitari here and there, one Castellan robot, some half-finished Cataphrons, stuff like that. So there's nothing coherent about it, but I'm just like, I just need to chip away at these so that, I can finally achieve this dream.
Now, when you finish everything, are you going to go back and paint your bases?
Yes, that's the plan. As soon as they're all done, I will paint the first base.
For those of you listening in that don't quite get the inside joke here, Scotty has some bases that are textured and painted, but they're relatively bare. And I like to poke fun at Scotty over his bases. And Scotty this last weekend played at a tournament. Scotty, you want to tell us what happened?
It was pretty fun. I handed in the score sheet from our very first game. It's funny because the organizer had actually been hanging out at our table. He was a very nice man. And he was actually just being real nice and stuff and just complimenting stuff. And he kind of had complimented my models a little bit. I think he did actually genuinely like the look of them because my Blood Angels kind of have like a bit of a chaos look to them. It looks kind of cool, but I am not a good painter, and I'm not even really good at conversions either. So, I kind of was just like, I was laughing along a little bit, not taking it too serious, whatever. So anyway, he wandered off, and I went and I handed in the score sheet from our first game because they wanted it all written out on paper. and I went to the bathroom, came back out, and I went back to the table, and he was hanging around there, like really looking through my models really, really intensely. And I was like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And he complimented. He opened the conversation by complimenting my bases.
He gave you a compliment sandwich?
Yeah. I was like, here we go. Was what I thought. Because I have, as you guys know, I have names on all of my bases. I name all my models. He was so that looks great. He really liked that. Then he kind of started mentioning, he's like, well, like the base is painted and you've got the name on there. There's not really much texturing to it, and that's kind of walking the line a little bit on what battle ready means. And I was like, oh, that's what this is about. So he said he let me off. He said he was going to let me off with a warning, I guess, as you might put it, that he would count them as battle ready, but he wanted to see a little more texture on there. It was actually only like 10 of the models because the majority of them are textured. But these specific ones, he was right. They're just painted. They just have names on them, and he said, "I'll give the names enough. That's enough flavor that we'll let you off on it." So, and I was like, "Okay, well, thanks, Arthur." I messaged Arthur right away. Actually, I was like, "Just so you know, you're not the only one."
Heads unbowed.
Like even heads unbowed, bases unpainted.
That's right.
Even when you look on the Warhammer community website that talks about Battle Ready. It's the first thing that comes up when you Google Warhammer and Battle Ready. It is the most generic, non-informative, general criteria that exist. Like, it talks about what Battle Ready is for, and it says it's specifically not gatekeeping. There's a quote that's really funny. This is, what is it? Battle Ready isn't a bar you have to pass to be allowed into our hobby. Rather, it's an achievable and universally recognized standard that's meant to say, all caps, yes to your army, yes to accessibility, and yes to more games with more painted models. Battle Ready is about making painting a celebration rather than a chore. No, it's not. It's not.
So the best part in there is the universally recognized statement, because clearly that's just it, is that not everyone does have the same idea of what Battle Ready is. Now, to be fair, I'm not trying to rag this TO at all. Like I said, I actually would like to make sure that all my bases have some texturing on them. That's a work in progress kind of thing. But really, for me, at the bottom of it, Battle Ready is about having an army that looks cohesively put together, and you can look at it and say, yes, that is a painted army. And there are some things that I think are universally recognized, like, for example, things like 3-color, not having bare bases or just sprayed parts, things like that.
No gray plastic.
Yep, but at the same time, what actually ultimately counts as it is different from place to place. And if you run an event, you're absolutely within your rights to decide what that is for your event, which is what these guys were doing. It was not a hostile interaction at all. It was just funny because, of course, you guys do like to razz me about my bases, and then it came up with this stranger that a few of my models were found wanting. So they were found wanting on the tabletop too, though. So maybe he was onto something.
More on that later.
Yeah.
Billy, what have you been doing in your hobby lately?
It's been a lot of fine detail work. I'm taking a.
Hold on, let me guess. Was it Space Marines?
Yeah. You know. I've only got 5 power armor armies. It's basically I'm taking my Imperial Fist army that I had tabletop ready in 3.5 weeks, built and painted, to that next level. I'm starting to go through and do all these extra details, edge highlighting, little scratches on bolters and power or chain swords, everything like that. Just trying to take it to that next level and get it all ready for LVO. So.
Right. Yeah. What is LVO? It's the end of the month here?
Yeah, January 26th.
And you're not going for 40k, you're only going for 30k.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm just going for the heresy.
That's really interesting. Seeing as we're talking about upcoming LVOs here in our next segment, there's been a bit of controversy on the 40k side of things regarding rules dates. Has there been any of that on the 30k side of things? It's been...
No, with 30k, the sunshine is bright and the grass is green, so it's been all good. Like, the new system's out, they're continuously starting to drop books, but everything's pretty much been FAQ'd and up to date as far as official GW rules go, which is nice. We'll see how it all kind of plays out. I have a couple suspicions of what kind of armies I'm going to see. There's a 3-day narrative event. Day 1 and 2 I'm in, and then there's a day 3 competitive event as well, which I'm in. So I'm interested to see kind of what the narrative and the competitive armies are going to look like. It's easy to slap the label narrative and competitive or match play onto them, but every time I've gone to an event in Vegas, there's always harder armies. So I'm interested to see with this format that's being used how it'll curb some of the armies into more of a narrative mindset. One of the biggest. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask a question about the competitive day.
Yeah.
When it comes to that competitive day, do you see a template of what every 3k army is going to look like? There's going to be 3 dreads and a Spartan and 2 javelins and a whirlwind and
3K is pretty much all open as is. There's no restrictions at all. It's pretty much as is. So you can see Fury of the Ancient Dread lists. You can see full tank lists. Probably see a Warhound floating around. There's a lot.
And do you think you'll see a good variety of stuff?
No, competitively I don't. I think you're going to see a lot of Custodes infantry spam. and a lot of dreads, personally. Which
That
I'm
actually
fine.
might not be a
I'm
bad
fine
thing
with seeing that.
because, GW actually does seem to take some tournament feedback and turn that into balance passes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're going to do that with 30k, but maybe they will, maybe they won't. If at the LVO, dreads are overrepresented, Custodians infantry are overrepresented, maybe come a few months down the road, they'll do a quarterly update for 30k and they'll tone the dreads down to being ballistic skill 3 or whatever it needs to happen to make them a bit more fair.
Yeah, they're currently one of the really strong units in the game. My army, my take is I'm very anti-meta, so I'm built specifically to deal with dreadnoughts and armor, which is fine. I don't mind playing against the dreadnought list. I'm pretty confident I'll be able to do enough damage and keep them far enough away where I can probably take them out before they get into my lines, or at least choose the fight I want to go into. So it should be interesting to see for sure.
Now, on the 40k side of things, they had a date, like a rules cutoff date for, what was it, the 14th or something like that?
15th?
I think it was the 14th. It was the 15th because the Arks of Omen is coming out on the 14th.
Yeah, that's right.
And the LVO had to do a little bit of backpedaling, and they did something kind of controversial. They said now it's December 29th. My question to you is, what do you guys make of this when we have rules dates for big tournaments? We got some local tournaments coming up here right away, and I mean, Games Workshop is a business machine. They're never going to stop releasing stuff. So, what sort of hard and fast rules should we as a community adopt to acknowledge this? In the past, there was always a 30-day rule, and I got burned this last year. I'm still upset about Hometown because they changed into Warzone Nephilim, and it totally screwed one of the armies I wanted to play. Because they updated it late into the season to when that was coming out. So, what should we do for rules cutoff dates, that kind of stuff?
Well, it seems kind of weird why they picked. Was it December 29th? Something
originally
like
the 15th, and then they came back to the 29th. Because
didn't the data sheet, balance sheet that came out, there was some things that actually got axed as of January 1st, wasn't it? It was supposed to take into effect. So I don't know if they're just trying to keep everybody's lists, status quo because of painting and everything else. But at the same time, I see it as a benefit because as soon as the new stuff drops, not everybody is friends with podcasters or play testers or anything like that. And they're going to be at a disadvantage where, here's 3 teams that have been cranking out this shit for the last 2 weeks. They're painted, they're ready, like this is what they know. I can see why it's not exactly fully transparent or fair for everyone else. So I think the decision is a good one, but I'm just curious why the data slate kind of stuff was ignored, because I didn't think it was that crazy. That means everything's
it's pretty crazy. Well, Scotty, go ahead.
It's crazy, I guess.
I think it comes down to, especially now, it comes down to that finding that healthy balance, right? Because you nailed it, Bill. There are people in the community who not only are more equipped to change armies on the fly and get a billion practice games in right away as soon as rules drop, but also some people who as we're learning this last year, honestly are getting these rules ahead of time because they're part of the playtesting coterie that is helping GW out with stuff,
which is a good thing.
It is. Mm-hmm. And then you also have, your, like you said, your casual gamer. It's weird. I actually went out on the internet, into the wilderness of the internet the last week or two, just to kind of try to get a sense, specifically searching, because there are other people asking this question. What is the right amount of time? What is the right amount of time between when a release drops and when it should be important or usable for an event? And I always, I agree with you, Arthur. The standard used to be 30 days or a month or whatever. There's a lot of people who don't like those numbers. Some people want 6 weeks. Some people think that 2 should be fine. And it's tough. I think this is being magnified because of the size of the event. LVO is widely viewed as like the event, at least on this side of the Atlantic. So there's a lot of pressure to get it right. I know I can't remember who it was, but somebody mentioned to me that they last year though, custodes were right on the cusp of whether they'd be legal or not, and they did end up allowing them, and they had a great tournament with custodes. So this kind of does feel a little wishy-washy compared to LVO's past behavior. There's no right answer, I don't think, but I do think especially if LVO, as has been reported, was in contact with GW for, planning at least some of this stuff. The dates that have been chosen, both on LVO's side and GW's side, seem kind of dumb to me. Because I don't think LVO could have gone with Arks of Omen with it launching 2 weeks ahead of the event.
Not fairly, and no. I mean, to be honest, I bet you it'll be one of the streaming teams or organizers or another Art of War person who will win the event again. I would place money on it. Yep. So would that really change anything? No, they already have an unfair competitive advantage. I guess it makes it more fair, though, by not letting the new stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the data slate that we just got and the Munitorum Field Manual, obviously they drop, a week or so ahead of even Arks of Omen. But a lot of people would still say that's hardly enough time. It's only 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks, whatever it is. So I kind of do get where they're coming from. For a big event that is in January, I actually am on board with the idea of let's have a rules cutoff December 29th. Ostensibly, what this event is the grand finale of Nephilim. Yep, it's got all the Nephilim rules. It's got all the Nephilim rules. It's even before all the armies of renown and stuff went away.
People have had practice with their Nephilim armies for over 6 months. It's kind of like saying, "Hey, this is the championship for Nephilim."
It's basically the fairest for casual Nephilim players, and many of whom are also very, very good. There will be some people in the top 20 or 30 at LVO who are not household names in the Warhammer community. It's the best for them. I get it. Had the event been like mid-February, I think there'd be more talk about it. Honestly, the big controversy here isn't using Nephilim. It's the fact that they had to change their rules cutoff because otherwise it would have been very weird. And I think there's actually, if I understand, there's still some discussion or fighting about the Guard Codex, because the Guard Codex, like the Orc Codex that we had last year, had a very strange release where GW basically let the Codex out early, but it's not official. And it's
it must have something to do with like their Christmas schedule for shipping, and their December boxes. So there must be like a certain date where they don't start releasing new product after because of just like getting into warehouses and getting stuff out, which is why Orcs this year or last year, Guard this year. What was it before Orcs, or was that just COVID? So like it was nothing.
I don't think they'd, at least as far as I know, that's the first time I've ever seen them pull what they did, like this, release the Codex in a limited release box.
Oh, the year before that was Sisters.
Was it Sisters?
It was the same exact thing.
Because Sisters have had, the limited box, so did Black Templar. They also had that limited box where you got the Codex inside of the cool artwork. But that was the only way you could run that army. There was people who had armies that no Codex, right? And the Codex was pretty hot. If you bought multiple boxes, you could, sell the Codex.
I remember because there was no models for Zephyrim out for the LVO. So people they were buying up Celestine models and taking her two little dinguses, Eleanor and Genevieve, and they were like slamming 8 of those together and calling that Zephyrim because it looks the same.
Yeah.
Yes, Scissors did it too. I actually support what LVO has done. I think it's a little bit embarrassing for them as a flagship product. They should have better communication with GW. This should be set up. They absolutely knew that there was going to be a new GT mission pack coming out. So they should have written in their rules very clearly, this will be Warzone Nephilim, no matter what, etc.
Well, they knew that it would we all knew it was going to be early January, right? Like, come on. So
now we have some upcoming events around our local meta here. Obviously, there's LVO, and so because of that, there's a whole bunch of LVO practice events.
Yeah.
Different stores are doing that. I know Gamers Den's doing one. I know Taps is doing one. I know Calgary's running one. And then at the end of the month, I think maybe even the same weekend as LVO, Red Claw has a full auto. Now, Red Claw also decided that they were not going to use any of the data slate changes, nothing like that. And again, it's like probably about 2 weeks after Arks of Omen drops, but 2 weeks is not really enough time for you to like totally adapt to a new meta, build a meta army, etc. So maybe that's fine. But they also have an event in February, and this event is usually garnered at more of their casual audience, that they have decided to also not use the Arks of Omen mission pack. That's getting like 3 weeks to a month. So at some point in time, you're going to be, what, 20% through a season, and you're not using that pack yet? Like, it's so hard to pick the right amount of time of when we need to start using these mission packs and these data slates and this new detachment and everything else.
Well, and that's the interesting take there too, that I think is totally relevant, is that if GW is doing 6 month mission packs, which again is actually pretty cool. I think for somebody who's invested in the hobby, it's awesome. I have actually seen a lot of pushback about it for people who, maybe are more casual, because the game's just changing faster than ever. But if you are doing 6 month mission packs, if you wait a month, that's how it's a 5 month mission pack. And it kind of is and it isn't, because of course the flip side is that if you're using that mission pack a month after the next one comes out, you did get 6 months out of it, right?
Unless your hometown.
Well, yeah.
Still mad about that. They couldn't play Eldar at the height of Eldar supremacy.
Well, now you know how all the AdMech players felt. But I do think that because the February 5th event, from what I understand, isn't even going to be using data slate or any of the Munitorum stuff either, like the new points. It's basically doing the same thing, where it's like we're going back to December, and that's the rules we're using. But again, like you said, that that particular event's marketed to a casual audience, which again, maybe if those are people who only pick up a game once a month or so, or guys who are newer or whatever, that might not be a bad idea. Ultimately, any event, it's between the players and the TOs. And I do actually encourage more players to be in contact with TOs and telling them what they want, because if you're a TO, that's kind of actually, I think you should want that feedback.
Absolutely.
So,
now, there is a certain tournament organizer here who's running an event called Winter War coming up right away.
Oh, yeah, the Warzone Winterfront.
Trouble
Warzone Winterfront.
Right? That's right.
Now, from what I understand, this is going to be like a premier Edmonton event. It's a pretty big deal. The organizers have a great track record. They've run a few good events. And I think within their players pack, they had the foresight to say, we're using the most updated mission. Okay, we're running an event. It's called Warzone Winterfront. And we actually had the foresight to talk about all of this stuff in advance. And we knew that there was going to be a new mission pack. And we said, we'll be using whatever new mission pack is out.
Yeah.
Giving people all the time. Now, it's pretty early in the season. The meta is not going to be established yet. People are not going to have solved it. Are there going to be some strong data sheets? Sure. Demons are going to be powerful. Guard is probably going to be the boogeyman. Leagues of Votann might be up there picking on demons. However, everyone's going to have that same thing going through. They're going to know. We're not changing the data slate. We're not doing anything. This is the expectation. Yeah. And they have months to prep. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, that's kind of the embarrassment for LVO, right? That's really, to me, that's the whole thing. It's just the fact that for such a well-connected, big, fairly well-run organization that, they didn't have the foresight, and especially knowing that we know as a fact that they're talking to GW, that they couldn't put it in their mission pack ahead of time to say, these are the rules we're going to use, and, instead of setting a date, because dates can be, as we know with GW, dates can be finicky. They can be tough.
Absolutely.
Just say these are the rules we'll be using, and it would have solved the whole issue. There wouldn't have been all this big drama on the internet. So, which is too bad. But I mean, I'm sure LBO will still be. Once guys get there, it'll be a ton of fun. So,
you know what? You know who I hope wins LVO? The guy who got kicked from the Art of War team.
Brad Chester.
And I hope he does it just completely gooned.
Well, that would make for drama. I mean, I guess in some ways, drama is always like, we all act like it's so scandalous, but the scandal gets views, right?
No, I mean, Conor McGregor is not the world's greatest fighter. He just builds up great drama. Or
Well,
did.
there you go, right? Well, you
Set
know, if you do it once, you can do it again. So
Now, Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit about this event? Because it's not just Warhammer 40k.
No, it is actually going to be a dual system. We've got Warhammer 40k, and then we also have bolt action. We're trying to spread a little bit of love to the bolt action scene, trying to grow it into a thriving community. There's a lot of passionate players involved that do come out and play at Red Claw. Andy, he is a Sarge there at Red Claw for dropping nights on Wednesdays. And we went down to Calgary, which Dana ended up running a event there in December, and it was really good. We had a lot of fun playing in it, and it kind of sparked the, hey, you know what, we should try and, you know, home grow a community here. Obviously, standing beside 40k is always a good idea, just because 40k is very popular. It allows us to be able to still sell out our venue. And also have, you know, a spot carved out for these bolt action players to start kind of growing into the scene. It was nice to kind of get that together. It should be really good. I'm hoping that it's going to sell out on the bolt action front. If not, it's easy enough for us to open up slots for 40k. We can do kind of a wait list. Hey, who didn't get in? Who wants in? And
Now, how fast did 40k sell out? Like minutes?
It's pretty much the first few hours. Yeah.
Hey, Bill, is this the first bolt action event in Edmonton? Like big tournament? Well, tournament at all, I guess.
Standalone, like on its own, yes. Normally they have ran some tank war events and stuff like that through the store, through Red Claw, which was, you know, graciously hosted by them, and they provided lots of private support and whatnot. This is the first one that we're going to be running, essentially kind of standalone on our own as Trident. So I have high hopes. I think it's going to be really good. Andy's been busting it out really vigorously over the last couple of weeks, getting a bunch of terrain ready. I've thrown some terrain at it as well, because we really want to amplify, or I guess be the leading example. We want our tables to look good. We want terrain to be good. We want people to come play these like nice looking tables with their armies. Essentially, you know, you don't have to be fully painted. I always recommend players be fully painted. For me, painted is always playing better, but personal choice, right? Like, as
for the get the bases.
Well, yeah, always. Honestly, I'm kind of a little more lax on bases. I'm fine if you wanted to honestly like spray paint them all brown and wash them. I could give a fuck. Like, to me, yeah, it's not a black plastic base. It's good. I don't think
that's good. I'm gonna like clip this part of the podcast and bring it with me to Winterfront, just in case there's any questions about my army. So
yeah, I heard that T.O.'s a real hard ass.
Yeah,
only about bases.
Only
about bases.
Oh man, so
I'll call Dad on him.
What is it about bolt action that draws you to the game? I know you play many games, right? You're into 40k, 30k, bolt action,
BattleTech,
Blood Bowl. I know you played some Blood Bowl.
I dabbled in Blood Bowl. We've been.
What is it about bolt action that? What's the appeal? What draws you to it?
I like bolt action for the, I guess, ease of gameplay. It's a very easy system. Now that I've been playing actively, the system's nice. It's very casual beer and pretzels. Like, there isn't
like an actual beer and pretzels game.
It feels like an actual beers and pretzels game. Like, yeah, you can build some greasy shit, and you can double reinforce platoon, and you can really min-max to kind of take very powerful things. But if you're just playing straight up, hey, this is what I want to run, and you want to have fun with it, you can. You can essentially use anything from real life to inspire you as well. Like, I picked an era. I'm going to play mid-war Americans, 1943, and I researched online what was the tech like, what was the leading tech coming into the army, and I, ended up converting and making my army based around that timeline, and I kind of roll with my own Bonko's bastards, and kind of I have a unique play style with them, right? And it's very fun, very easy just to pick up, throw some dice around, and just play. That I do like. So it is good. And the nice thing is obviously the real world inspiration. You can base it off of anything you can honestly find. So it's decent.
Well, if there's anyone who's curious about bolt action and wants to see it tried out, you should come out to Warzone Winterfront if you're not playing in 40k otherwise. And if you want to see how it's done, be a great place to like get a live demo.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just to check it out. And if you are interested and you have no idea, where to go, where to stop, just hit us up on the socials. Ask, pop by Red Claw on Wednesdays. You can see a bunch of guys playing. It's a fun game. So
now, Arks of
Juicy
Omen.
stuff.
Arks
of Omen.
Juicy stuff.
R.I.P.
Arks of Omen.
AoC.
Mary AoC.
So
Where do we start? Arks of Omen. So
Where do you start?
Well, we've been talking about it the whole time. We talked about LVO. There's this new match play coming out. So for those of you not in the know, next weekend we have a new match play season coming out, Warzone Arks of Omen. And one thing that's kind of funny is that we're no longer retrieving Nephilim data. We're retrieving battlefield data. They've gotten rid of the...
It only took them four rules packs to finally be like, you know what? We could just call this battlefield data.
What was the original one? Secure teleport? No. Deploy scramblers.
No, that was a different secondary.
Okay.
It was a completely different secondary, Arthur. God.
Well, they got rid of the cool ones like Pierce the Veil and stuff.
Yeah, I know.
But like it or not, there is a new match play coming out. They're moving the plot ahead a little bit. They're going to release a couple new models. They got boarding actions, which I'm stoked for, but I'm probably not going to buy into. But one of the biggest things is we're losing Armor of Contempt.
Probably the biggest game-wide change, I would say.
Yeah.
The most impactful change across many armies.
So, Armor of Contempt, for those of you who are not super familiar with 40k, essentially negated the first point of armor reduction against your armor. One of the problems that I have had with 9th edition playing Sisters of Battle over the couple years it's been out now is that power armor doesn't feel like power armor. There's so much like little AP1 stuff in the game that you never really get to roll your 3-ups. Armor of Contempt drastically changed that, and it made your 3-up saves and your 2-up saves quite good. Scotty and Bill, you guys play the most power armor here, where it's most relevant. How did it feel to have Armor of Contempt?
Oh, it felt good.
I'll
be honest.
It's funny because like I have 2 Marine armies, and then I have these other 2 armies, and for me, like I really got the system shock of Armor of Contempt, because both of my non-Marine armies were two that were the most punished by it being brought into the game, because they were armies that were very heavy on low AP, really counted on a lot of dice to get things done, and suddenly, especially with the fact that Armor of Contempt, like statistically speaking, the better your save, or the higher your save, the more you're getting, the more impact you're getting out of that penetration reduction. Just the way that the rounding errors and everything work.
Right.
So like
a 2-up save passes 100% more saves than a 3-up save.
You take 100% less damage. Yeah.
That.
So it was a big deal. And honestly, like I'll say that. So that was Admech and Necrons, and both those armies like really took it on the chin with the advent of Armor of Contempt. Now the Necrons, of course, still had their fun in the sun, but it was completely related to secondaries. I think even a lot of very good Necron players will tell you that it's not about killing anything, because they don't get very far on that. For Space Marine players, of course, it was a big boon, especially, the Deathwing armies and the Sanguinary Guard armies and anybody who could spam 2+ armor saves. And, like, honestly, yeah, it made them feel relevant, but obviously the tournament data has shown that for a lot of those armies, it still didn't necessarily bring them up in win rates. And there was a lot of things about Armor of Contempt not to like for the way it directed the meta of the game. So I think, like, macroscopically, getting rid of it is actually a great idea, because it wasn't doing what it was meant to do, which was to boost Marine win rates. Like, the highest... Chaos Space Marines were doing alright, some of their sub-factions. I'd argue that that's not necessarily because of Armor of Contempt. They definitely benefited from it, but it was just a newer book that was built for the modern game.
Right, their sheet had some boost in the arms that Marines don't have. They have the Black Rune. Marines don't have anything like that.
You make a good point. Yeah, they've got an Abaddon, things like that. So it wasn't doing what it wanted or what they wanted it to, and it was causing plenty of other problems. So get rid of it, and I think that will impact the hobby really positively. How it actually impacts the armies that made use of Armor Contempt is kind of a mixed bag.
Now, I know that Marines have struggled. Since their first book came out, and they're absolutely getting some sort of update here within a few months. What that looks like, whether it's a new book 2.0 or supplements, to be seen. But they're getting something. We know that for sure. And maybe they're not. Maybe that'll be 10th edition. Who knows? But the days of Marine supremacy are pretty close to nigh.
One can hope.
I would find it especially funny if their win rate tanked even further this season. Not because I don't like Marine players. You guys are both Marine players. You love your Marines. I get you. I have a Marine army too. I just don't play it. It's true. It's in the display case.
I do honestly we talked about this a little bit. I do think that there are a couple Marine armies that will see their win rate drop. Because there's right now a lot of the narrative on the internet is that Marines were actually buffed. Because GW did do a lot to try to mitigate this change, the loss of AoC. And it's all sorts of things. It's the same thing where all the talk about the Arks of Omen detachment, and that's not just Marines, that changes the ball game for lots of armies.
Yeah, it does.
And no matter what you think is going to happen with your army, then, we also have to wait for the meta effects. I've been saying this about my AdMech. They're an army that I do think is going to come up a lot, but they were in a really deep hole. So is it going to be enough? And the answer is maybe. A lot of that's going to have to do with the fact that Tyranids are going to come down a lot, and Harleys are going to come down a lot, and you've got all these other armies that are kind of going to switch places and maybe change up what units they use. So the meta might take a while to settle, but there will be definitely some Marines, and I would argue many of the factions that are the worst right now, some of those competitively, some of those Marine chapters are literally in the low 30s, high 20s, absolutely awful.
Fists.
That will come up a lot, especially the shooty ones. The changes
fists,
prioritized.
Salamanders.
Yep.
I don't know what Iron Hands are doing, but Iron Hands.
Well, Iron Hands weren't great. They're better than some of those other ones. Ultramarines, I think Ultramarines will come up a lot, especially if
they can spam their tack doctrine all game.
Yeah. So I think you will see a lot of them come up, but I do think specifically the assault-focused Marines may not come up much, or probably even drop. I think Blood Angels will drop. White Scars we'll see, but Space Wolves, Black Templars, it's kind of more of a mixed bag. But I do think, at the end of the day, a lot of those chapters that have been hurting, they've been hurting for a long time, and AoC did not help. So this is a positive change, and it's a positive change for everyone who's playing against Marine. So
yeah, I did like it as a Marine player. It made my Marines feel durable, even my Chaos Marines. I have some reservations about Sisters getting it because I don't think they wear actual power armor, but that's something different.
Yeah,
I don't think Sisters should have gotten it. But when we have a 6-sided dice and both have power armor, how do you... Because it's not the same. They don't have the ports that Marines have. You're right.
No.
They don't have that black carapace.
They've got at least one port that a Marine doesn't have.
That... maybe
is it time for our ad break? Okay, today's stream is sponsored by Adam and Eve. You can get that at with your code Scotty.
We'll take that out in the editing. We'll take that out with the editing.
Yeah, it's fine. We're leaving it. It's fine.
No, you're right, Arthur. We could do a whole podcast on the fact that people have been begging GW since literally Rogue Trader to use more different types of dice, D8s, D10s. So that would go a long way for fixing a lot of things.
No. I don't want to roll D8s, and I don't want to roll 25 D8s or D10s and then pick out my 5, 6, 7s, and 8s, because that is going to be harder than rolling the same amount of D6s.
Yeah, but we could have Sisters with proper armor.
They have proper armor right now.
Just call them flak.
It's just not
4+ flak armor.
Oh, that's not flak armor. It's power armor.
Okay, so they get
hold on.
3s, and then real power armor should be 2s.
Well,
If
that's
this got-
Terminator armor.
Like could
If
be
this
1s
got
now.
sisters down to like 7 or 8 points a model, then you'd be okay with it.
Absolutely, because they have no durability as is. The fact that they have power armor has been completely irrelevant. As soon as they get targeted, you pick them up. Welcome to T3, boys.
Yeah, it's D3. Well, in any case, I think it's going to be a very interesting. This will definitely be, I think, the biggest meta shift we've had in a long time. Nephilim was different than Nakmund, but I don't think it was as different. There was, of course, the big CP change, but
I think the bigger changes from Nephilim were just the codexes that were coming out.
yeah.
The Tyranids, right? Eldar to
first
some
half of-
extent.
First half of the year had been a bunch, like explosive book after explosive book. Custodes,
Custodes,
Eldar, Tau,
Eldar.
Tyranids. Harleys, of
Eldar
course,
Nids.
kind of were with Eldar, but they came out. So yeah, it was a very fast-moving meta, which I think actually slowed down a good bit in Nephilim, partially because of the changes, partially because GW kind of adjusted how they were doing things.
We didn't get nearly as many books in the second half, did we?
No,
Space Marines,
Votan,
Dwarves.
you can call them dwarves, sure.
Dwarves,
Chaos
yeah.
Demons.
What else?
Chaos Demons.
Demons,
Guard,
right.
Guard are kind of sort of coming out now, of course. They're kind of in a weird limbo. So
Is
yeah,
that it?
we're probably forgetting somebody, and the people who play that army are going to be very offended.
Yeah, they're just like screaming at the screen right now.
yeah.
No, we talked about the Chaos Space Marines. Those fanboys aren't going to get upsetty spaghetti with us.
No, it's
Oh, they
true.
don't
They're good.
They don't get upset about anything. They're actually a really chill group of people. It's kind of funny.
They are.
They let it out on the tabletop. They've been broken by many years of GW's abuse. So, but I do think, like I said, that this will be for sure, especially this first month or two, is going to be wild, and I think that's good. There's a lot of people who are like, the game was in such a good space, and now they're just wrecking it. And then, like, to be fair, the game was in a pretty good space. I'm not going to say it was a great space, but it was better than it had been before. I don't think it's wrecked. I actually wouldn't be shocked if 4 or 5 months from now we were like, wow, Arks of Omen turned out to be an even better meta than Nephilim was, because the way at least I'm looking at it right now is the factions coming up and the factions going down are the right factions. And people sometimes think after every data slate or rules update, they say, this change completely puts this army on the shelf, or it makes this army way too powerful. And I'm like, you need to go back and look and actually think about some of the huge nerfs and or buffs that armies have gotten in the past, and how much it actually materially affected their win rate. Because we have seen some, like Tyranids, we saw some massive nerfs to them. This is the third round of them.
Three or
Third
four
round, 3 or
nerfs.
4, yeah. And each time it's brought win rates down, but like after 3 rounds of huge nerfs, they were still at a 56%. So this is gonna drop them more, sure. I don't think this means you put them on the shelf. Hell, if they drop below 50, that's still pretty good as long as it's in the high 40s, right? And it's the same thing for Marines. They're like, you're gonna have Marines with 60% win rates. I'm like, man, have you seen where some of those Marine armies are? They are not gonna start winning twice as many games as they were before. I think you actually legitimately might see the era of 25 or so different factions all being meta-relevant. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But it's going to be explosive to start. It's going to be wild, because people are going to be trying all sorts of stuff.
Well, let's roundtable this for a sec. What are the winners and losers within our own armies that we own here today? Bill, why don't you go first? Who's coming out ahead most for you in Arks of Omen, and who's going to be dropped behind the most?
Just from reading that data slate, I do feel that my executioners, my play as Imperial Fist, are probably going to get a good bump up, considering all the point adjustments, all the free war gear, and then being able to stay in a Devastator Doctrine.
Have you mathed out exactly how many free points you're going to get?
No, but I just kind of quickly went over what I was playing for lists, and it's probably around like the 240 points, like for free.
So you're getting like a 15%, 10 to 15%, just larger army.
Yeah, just off the hop, right? And that's from just point reductions across the board, and then from free war gear. So it'll be interesting to play. I do feel a little bit of a sting with my Chaos Marines. Although it makes me more inclined to play my Iron Warriors again. Obviously, because I get to keep Armor of Contempt. Or at least a version of it. So
right, yeah, totally.
And it does prioritize the gunline armies for Marines, I think. This update does. So,
yeah, I'm still interested in
big guns.
Big guns never tire. And I still am interested in Drukhari. I would like to bring them out now that it seems that they're, not the hardcore bandwagon. At the time when I was starting to buy everything, they're too hot to touch and like, oh, they're OP, they're broken. And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I'm not jumping on the army because I want to win. I'm jumping because I like the army and it's cool. And now it seems like they're cooled down a bit where I might actually be able to jump in and probably bust them out get them ready for 10th anyways.
You weren't a bandwagoner at all. You had a genuine interest in whips and chains.
Yes.
Yeah. Whips and chains excite you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am curious to see how many people are going to be dumping off their Harlequins and their Nids here right away. So we all play. Well, Bill doesn't, but he's going to. We play in the Edmonton Warhammer League, and we got like 42 people. And because I knew there was going to be a mission change, I said halfway through the season, people could change their armies. So I'm really curious who's going to be changing their armies and what they're going to be changing to. Are the Trident players going to like jump ship? Is our resident Harlequin player going to jump ship? Because going from a 4-up invul to a 5-up invul is pretty bad. I'm curious how many meta chasers are going to do that.
Well, and the Marines Scotty, are interesting too. Like
winners and losers within your army.
Well, like you guys already heard me. Like I've seen some people who've made the argument that Blood Angels will be fine, and that's fair. My personal take is I don't think they will. I think that I've seen a couple of guys be like, well, they can use this unit now, they can use this unit now, and I'm like, those units aren't like you can have good units, but they don't work for the army. Everybody's talking about plasma interceptors right now, which is fine. They're good. They're great at that price point. Yeah, Blood Angel can run them. Here's the thing. You could run plasma interceptors in any Space Marine army, and in any Space Marine army, they'll be better than they are in Blood Angels. So if you're running plasma interceptors, why are you playing Blood Angels, right? So it's not a benefit to the army. You should just be doing something different, which is fine. Blood Angels have had a little bit of fun in the sun as probably one of the better, if not the best loyalist Space Marine faction for a little while now. So that's fine. That's the cycle of armies.
I thought we all played Blood Angels, buddy. Angels of Death.
Yeah, that's actually the codex I'll be using going forward. Is that one right there? So, my 2,000 point army has like 3 squads and a character in it and a rhino. But on the flip side, as Arthur has been dreading, I think he actually wakes up in a cold sweat once a week about it. I think my AdMech are on the ups, right? And it's not even I think there's nothing about these changes that is bad for AdMech and plenty of good. So they'll be on the climb. We'll see how high they climb, but it would be nice if they felt a little bit less hamstrung. My Necrons will be changing, of course. I didn't actually play my Necrons very much in Nephilim because I didn't like how the army played, even though it was pretty good for a while. It's just a boring playstyle for me, and I do play competitively, but I hate not enjoying it. Very
it's just
boring.
Really. It's like really, really bad sex. You're there, you're doing it, but no one's having fun.
You want to do it, but also, yeah. So there's that. I do think
about it.
You're half happy. So yeah. So and then I've got these White Scars that are permanently my fourth chapter or fourth army that I never find time to play. So I don't really feel like commenting too much on them because I don't play them enough. But I do think that we will definitely see a pretty cool meta shakeup. This will be the first time in a year that I think that people won't be terrified of Tyranids showing up at their events. First time there won't be a Dark Horse Harlequin player who's just tromping everybody, when they hit that top 2 or 3 tables. We'll have a genuine turnover of the top armies. And hopefully we'll have a really diverse field where, you actually get 10 or so, or maybe more factions, which are constantly duking it out at the top tables. Which would be really cool. What do you think, by the way, Arthur, once you get through this, what do you think about your new Tau there, and how they might be filling that role?
Tau took about a 5% points nerf. Their stuff got about 5% more expensive. 10% on suits, I guess.
Yeah.
So you are playing with like, I think it ends up being like 7 or 8% less of an army. However, everything else got nerfed. All the other top boogeymen got a way bigger kick in the pants than Tau did. Demons with flamers, armor of contempt, which matters because Tau can put over a lot of -1 shooting. But Tau got some nerfs too with that Sunshark bomber, and I'm most curious to see personally what GW is going to do with the Supreme Commanders. So Shadow Sun, Abby, the Necron dude, because that matters too. Silent King. I think that Tau will put up some results. I think that people who are like die-out Tower players that have been playing it for a while will see some success. I don't think they're going to be like the number one faction. I think that I'll put up. I think they'll be my strongest performing army, though, out of the ones that I own. I think Eldar stocks are going up, mostly because of the new detachment. I think really benefits them. They don't have to take their troop tax, which was really, really painful for them. And they have some changes to like swooping hawks, but the new change to the secondaries for being in your opponent's deployment zone is just free Eldar points. And combining when you talk about the points change to Shroud Runners, at 90 points for 3, they're now the exact same points as Wind Runners, and they're not the same data sheet. I'm sorry, but they're not. Shroud Runners are better in every way. So we'll see how that shakes out. I think that Craft Worlds will see a... Craft Worlds without Harlequins will see a win rate boost, but because of the Harlequin nerf, you will see on like Warhammer stats, Craft Worlds will come down on it. But like pure Craft Worlds will come up. But my beloved, the Sisters, I think they're seeing the shelf this season. Their secondaries got toned down a bit, so they lost Leap of Faith got changed.
They lost it.
They lost it.
It's bad.
Because you need those 4, 5s, and 6s on those miracle dice to do things impactful for the game. They changed the not Sacred Shrine, but the other one. No, it is Sacred Shrine, yeah. To instead of 5 points outside your zone, it's 4. I think that's actually fair, and I think that secondary will continue to depend on the mission. Some missions it will still be slap 12 points automatic, fight for the other 3, and some points you're like, damn, this is a bad secondary. But when you couple those secondary nerfs and the changes to Armor of Contempt, I think that they're going to see them drop down from their like 54% win rate to about like a 49, 48, somewhere there. Their data sheets do not have the viability to take on Bellicors. They're not Votan. They're not Guard.
Yeah.
Their data sheets are not even AdMech.
No, cost for cost. No, they do have some very good trading units, which I think will still be good, and that's basically going to be the army's lifeline.
It's true, but there are many things that they can't trade with. Like they can't trade with Greater Demons.
No.
Actually, if Marines come out, Sisters love to pick on Marines. It's like because Sisters or Marines almost always come in those 5 or 7 man squads, right? You're barely taking 10 man unless you're doing the sort of Black Rune of Damnation shenanigans. They love Marines, so maybe that'll come up. I'm actually curious about Custodes, though. I think that they'll see some Custody stocks improve.
Well, I was actually just going to ask you something along that line, like quick and dirty, if you were to pick a top 3, say, I don't know, April, what do you think is going to be the top 3 boogeyman win rate type armies? And maybe they won't even be boogeyman. Maybe they'll just be the top win rates, but everybody isn't too upset about it because it's only like a 55 or something like that.
Mel, why don't you take this one first?
With my
put them on the spot.
Yeah, I was gonna say with my limited expertise
in
40k, I'm probably gonna say Guard are gonna be pretty gnarly. I've already been hearing some gnarly stuff about them. Guard, Bellicor, and like Bellicor demons, and I'd say I would probably say what was it? Just on Iron Hands, probably going to be going up again from what we were talking about.
Space Marines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't just copy his answers, Arthur.
Oh, I wasn't planning. I was gonna quick look at Warhammer stats and see what was the most before, and we don't have time for that. I think Bill, you're right. I think Guard, we're gonna see top 3. I think they have some great stratagem synergy. They have some stupidly easy secondaries, where you just get to write 15 in your column and call it a day.
Yeah.
And they have not been nerfed yet. I think the only codex that has come out and has not got a nerf. And they're the final codex.
It'll come.
You know, barring World Eaters, they will get a nerf. They'll fix the Barbaran's Key car skin. They'll be able to do 36 mortal wounds or whatever it is, and they'll probably tone down some other shit. And their HQs that get taken and everything, we'll see a points bump, but they're going to be number 1 for sure. I think locally we are still going to see demons come out on top. But I think, like, in international meta, I think they'll fall off. I don't think that they'll have that same staying power. Mostly because I think that dwarves are going to come up and they're really going to prey on them. But I don't think that dwarves are going to be, our number 3. And I think that number 3 spot is going to be widely shared between, 12 armies. I think you'll see some dwarves in there. I think you
got to pick one. Come on now.
I don't think
money down.
There isn't a third best.
Yeah, well, then pick the best of the third best.
It's not going to be NIDS. It might be Tau, it might be Craft Worlds. I honestly think those 2 armies have the power to get through. As much as I shit talk AdMech, it could also be them.
The winner of this particular, the person who gets the closest here will get a signed Sarah Palin T-shirt. By the way,
There you go.
I think. I mean, I do agree. I don't know that Guard will be top. I think they might be top 3 though. I think that the main thing with Guard is just it is a very flexible army. So they're very good at adjusting to different metas. And like you said, Arthur, I mean, there's something to be said for having 2, if not more, really good secondaries. That's just it's a great way to win games. I do agree. I think Chaos Daemons are really strong, but I think that they're one of those armies a bit like Knights where they can
they're gatekeepy.
They can come out like gangbusters, but then everybody kind of figures it out. And I do think that some of the armies, which are kind of the natural predators of Daemons per se, are on the ups. Guard, I think, are one of them. I think you mentioned AdMech. AdMech are great in the Daemons. So, I think Daemons will fall off. I do think they'll be very good, though. I just don't know that they'll be like a top 3 army. I do agree. Dark
Eldar have play into Daemons? Is that a...
Yeah, I'll get to them. I have a thought on that.
Poison Tongue, maybe, yeah.
The Votann, I think like now is the delayed rise. Well, not rise, but delayed era of Votann. They've definitely taken some nerfs, but like a lot of their competition just took it on the chin, and they're great into Armor of Contempt. So if Marines do come up, or into the lack of Armor of Contempt, if Marines do come up, that's going to be a lot of good matchups for them. And then you kind of mentioned it yourself there a little bit. I think Custodes is going to be an army that is going to be crawling right back into the fight. They've never really disappeared. They've actually been holding on pretty good. But they definitely, the nerfs that they took back at the start of Nephilim have kind of took them off their podium that they were enjoying with some of the other spring armies.
Well, I think that this strats more than once a game.
Yeah, and a lot of the armies that were keeping them down have taken it too. I think that they legitimately will surprise people. But if I did have to pick a dark horse, you said it, I would pick Drukhari. I think that they've also recovered a lot of their strength, and they're a good Drukhari player is a really magical thing, I think that they'll make some noise, especially internationally. So,
what's the next huge tournament that's not LVO that'll be using this? Is it going to be Adepticon?
I think so. I would say Adepticon because that's end of March.
Yeah.
It's got to be Adepticon then.
We'll have to circle back on this conversation come after Adepticon and see whatever Art of War has cooked up.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
to win that.
What all the talking heads on the internet say now that we're some of them. So,
I haven't watched the tier lists because you know how I feel about tier lists.
Yeah, I don't either. I have people tell me what they say, and then I say, well, that's great, but we'll see. They're very good. All of them have very good players who would kick my ass every single day, twice on Sunday. They're very good at commenting on, I think, the armies they do play, and I think they sometimes don't have the best takes on the whole meta, especially if their team, whoever they might be, lack players from a certain corner of the meta. But whatever, that's, they're just doing their thing. They're providing a lot of good info to people. I just think that sometimes taking their word as law is a dangerous thing, especially for a casual player. So,
but I signed up to the war room right now. They promised me a 20% win rate increase.
well, you can't add 20% to 100%, Arthur.
Undefeated Tau going first. You know what I mean? That's actually
100's the limit, man. Like you can't win more than all your games. Like I'm sorry.
110%.
Hey, we mentioned Adepticon here. You're going to Adepticon, right?
I am going to Adepticon, so I'm actually not going to play in a tournament though. I'm going because I want to upgrade my painting a little bit. I've been saying for a few years that I feel like my current level of painting, like the things I'm missing is like professional training. And it was one of the 30k guys at Bill's doubles events. I think it's Paul Swenson was his name. He really sold me on and I saw the results. His world leaders are absolutely gorgeous. No, yeah, it is world leaders. That's
world
right.
leaders.
Yeah. And I was like, where'd you learn how to do that? And he talked about like these courses he took at Adepticon and some weird ones. Like he said his favorite one was how to paint chibi miniatures and do like eyes and makeup on them. And I don't know what that has to do with world eaters, but now he's got a bunch of chibi world eaters, right?
It's right in the lore, man.
It has to be.
Read a book.
So I signed up for I think 7 different painting stuff. There's I think the Saturday I have a course from like 8:30 to 1:30, 2 to 4:30, and then like 5:30 to 9.
Oh wow!
I don't know when I'm gonna eat. I don't know. I hope I can like cart in a washroom break somewhere.
The eye strain is going to be vicious.
Yeah, but hopefully we'll be able to.
Do you have glasses?
You know,
Arthur.
No, am I gonna need
probably
some?
will.
He's going to need them.
Yeah.
Shit.
Oh man.
That's awesome, though.
I'm excited to go. It was really stressful though because one of our other friends he couldn't register exactly at the moment, and it looks like he's not going now because everything is full up.
Well, these sell out right away, right?
It's like not even hour. It's usually gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would tell me
same
that
for LGO,
they should expand and make it bigger, but
well, there's only so big something can be, right?
Yeah,
and then like,
that's true.
How many halls? How many painters are you going to bring out? How big is your tournament?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching some of the 30k threads flying on some of the pages, the Adepticon Heresy page itself, and big shit show and server crashing. People have all this stuff in their cart. The cart's crashed. Holy shit! I lost my very important, my VIP ticket, and some of their scrubs grabbing it now, and it sounds.
I had 5 devices open.
Oh god!
Wow.
And I was the first one of all my friends to get through. All both of us actually. And I figured out the trick is when I think what they were doing is like they were resetting the website or the server. So I'd have one of my devices going, and then as soon as it would reset, I would click next page and all the other ones.
Yeah.
And then one of those ones would get through, and I'd be like, yes.
Wow.
There you go.
So that's the secret.
Input my credit card info like 5 times. So I'm sure I've been charged like going to Adepticon 6 times by now. But
Yeah, I was going to say. Now we know where all the tickets are. Yeah. Now we know where all the tickets are.
That's right.
You know what? I'm excited though. It's a great time to be playing any sort of ward game. As the new year is wrapping up, I think there's a lot of really good things to look forward to. With regards to 40k, it looks like we have a new edition on the rise, probably in the summer, maybe late fall. We absolutely have a new tournament set, and the thing I like most about that is it really shakes up the meta. I'm tired of playing Necrons. I don't want to run into Necrons at Game 5 of an event anymore.
One was enough.
I'd rather get stomped by demons.
If I recall, you won that game versus Necron, so...
Yeah, only because I had lost my 3 previous games against Necrons.
Yeah.
The secret of playing against Necrons is going first.
That's the secret to a lot of matchups. So.
The secret to playing Tau is going first.
Just roll better. This has always been the secret. So.
That's just it. You just got to roll better. It'll be fine.
Actually, Arthur sage wisdomed me just yesterday at this event I was at, because I was salty because I did lose my second game, and it was pivotal towards my final placement. But I had tactically played this game very well. I was really, really happy with how it was going, and then the string of about 30 or 40 dice, it just disappeared, and it was just dice, and that's the game, right? But I was bitching about it in group chat there. I'm sure you guys both saw, and he said, Scott, it's not just a tactics game; it's also a dice game. That's the reality of it, right? So.
You could have the greatest tactics in the world, but if your dice don't want to cooperate,
yep. And sometimes it's good to remember that.
That's
good
true.
to remember. So
that's true. That said,
that's why you just play. Oh, go ahead, Bill.
I was gonna say. That said, anyone listening, or even just you guys, do you do anything special with your dice before a big event? I remember I used to rock dice under my pillow. No lie, man. Dice under my pillow.
There's no
fucking
way.
nights I did. You damn right. And throw them under your pillow. Get that good magic going. Because sometimes, the dice are, if they feel cold, it's just not the way.
The only time I went to the LVO, this guy had his old lady there standing next to him, and he'd be like, blow on my dice, and she'd fucking blow on them. Every single roll, and he'd fucking roll like a high roller. Every roll.
Jesus.
That poor girl.
You got it, Daddy!
Horse by the end of the day.
No doubt.
Yeah, no,
So, Bill, I'm gonna need you to come to my next event.
So I can blow on my dice
for me.
I think some of the things Arthur does to his dice, we actually can't talk about on the podcast and get you demonetized. So
you could sign up for an OnlyFans, and he could probably show you.
But time for our second sponsored part of this stream. My OnlyFans.
I do swap my dice out, like probably once every 6 months or so. That's probably about the only thing I do. I don't throw them out or anything, but like I'll be like, I'm just not going to play with this set of dice for 6 months or whatever. Where I'm just like, just bring in some new ones. So that's about it, though.
I have 2 sets of dice, and I'll swap them out. So at Hallowtide, my very first game, I had 1 set that were rolling fucking absolute dog shit. Hot swap the dice.
Yep.
And you know what? Like, I'm sure that mathematically it ended up being the exact same. It made me feel better.
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly. That's just it. Half the game is mental too, right? Oh, there's a cat. Half the game is mental, and sometimes that's just what you got to do to help your brain get through the game. So,
I usually buy a set of dice for each faction that I'm playing.
Yeah.
So, like, I roll up with my Imperial Fist Templar dice. Like, that's what I'm rolling. That's it. If they fail me, well, fuck. That sucks. But it is what it is.
Bill's big into the aesthetics.
Yeah,
so.
I'm all about that extra detail. So,
yeah.
Well, as we close out the podcast, what are your 2023 goals for Warhammer?
So many.
No, you got like a list that's a page long, don't you?
Well, I had a thing. Yeah, I had a thing. It was if you've been keeping up the socials, you would see. But get my Imperial Fist ready for LVO. Try and get my Zone Mortalis Necromunda terrain all built. I've got a shit ton of that stuff, like 3 tables worth, being able to go. Obviously, you're going to be hosting an Iron Within event. It's going to be a big one, kind of. I think it's going to be dubbed that for April, and then I think Iron Without in the fall, where it's going to be the big 40k one. Obviously, get my Chaos Space Marine Army backlog done. That might actually get changed out for Executioner Marines. We'll see how it goes. And I would like to get my collection built up to like 20 tables. Get 20 mats. So, and then Drukhari, obviously. I haven't forgotten about them. Arthur refuses to pay me good dollars, so I'm stuck with them.
You know what? 330.
330.
Hey Bill, didn't you want to build a slightly larger model this year too?
Yes. Oh yes. The big daddy. I have a Reaver Titan that I want to build, and I'm going to be making sure it gets built this year for sure. It's not a Forge World 1. It's actually a kind of like a redone version of a armor cast. I'm big into the armor cast stuff. That's kind of what drew me into the hobby back in the day. I have an armor cast Warhound. You can actually see him. He's right there.
Right there. Yeah. That's him.
So
give him a little scratch on the head.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, there's a little scritch. Yeah.
So I want to get that Reaver built. He's pretty legit, and it's only 1.5 inches smaller than a 4-year-old one. So I love that cartoony, more kind of alien-esque look of the early Titans. I just think they look so cool. And having a Titan, I think, is kind of almost like your hobby bucket list, right? Everyone wants to have that big fuck off Titan that they can look at and be like, oh, awesome. Even though you might only bring it to 3 games in a year, if that, but it's still nice to have. So
laundry list of goals, but I also know how incredibly prolific you are with your assembly and painting, man. I wouldn't be surprised if it's August and you've already crossed everything off the list. So,
well, let's hope. We'll see.
Well, it'll be even easier once he gives me that Drukhari army for 320, right?
320. Listen to this.
320 American. 320 American.
I have to check the exchange to see if it's worth it.
What are you doing this year, Arthur?
Okay, yeah. Here's the goals. I'm going to win 1 best painted, 1 best general, 1 best sport.
Bourbon, a shot, and a beer, eh?
There you go.
That's it. That's the goal. Last year we managed to win a best painted and a best general. We never got the best sport because you guys are dicks. But
I voted for you. Ryan voted for you, and he hadn't even played with you. So,
so that again is this year's goal: best painted, a best general, and a best sport.
Nice.
And you don't care where you get them from, though.
I can buy them for myself if I have to.
Yeah, go play like in a pool shark league for a little while or something, maybe. I think. Well, I opened with one right at the start when I was saying I want to have no pile of shame. I'll give myself at the end of the year. I'll give myself a little leeway. Anything I buy in the last 2 weeks of the year doesn't count. But
Bill, did you notice how he didn't say no shame at all?
Yeah, no, that's never going away. I'll leave 1 base unpainted. I would really like to pull a big W on a GT this year. I'll probably only get 2 or 3 shots. It's a high bar for a scrub like me, but I would like to get one of those. Unless I can't, then I'd like to get a big W on an RTT. In which case, if I can't do that, then I'd like to win a game. And if I can't do that, I'm going to play BattleTech.
I was going to say play Heresy.
Yeah,
you already have models, man. It's ready.
Bill, I won't play narrative games. And I know that 30k is always narrative. I don't even know why they're splitting up competitive and narrative for LVO. It's always a narrative game, right?
Always.
My 12 dreads are all narrative.
It's very narrative. So those would be the big ones for me. That pile of shame is going to be the biggest one, even though it's getting smaller. But especially if I rumors of big Marine releases this year, it'll be getting smaller and then getting bigger. So
yeah. I feel
and hopefully, I from my satellite position with you Trident guys, I'd really love to see you get a couple of really good events go off this year, and hopefully look towards building something even crazier going into 2024. So
that definitely is the goal for sure.
Yeah. So wouldn't mind getting like a beach bod too, but we'll see.
Just do 1 push-up every time you fail a charge with your Blood Angels.
Yeah, that'd do
1.
it. That'd do it. 10 for each reroll fail. Yeah.
That's the best way.
Well, I
Fitness
think
40K.
that pretty much... Does that wrap it all up?
I think so, yeah. I was just looking. It looks like we ticked all the boxes here, so...
I could talk about Arks of Omen all night, but your viewers are probably getting tired of it, so...
When are we going to start playing Arks of Omen at the club? Like, after Red Plus tournament, we need to practice Nephilim a bit more.
I mean, it's between you and your opponent, man, always. So, you want to play it? Yeah, didn't you? I thought you and Ryan played Arks of Omen last week, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Actually, I have my league game coming up Thursday against Chaos Demons. And I asked him, I said, do you want to play Arks or no? And he's like, I don't know, like, what's the changes? And I'm like, do you want to play Arks or no?
How long you got, buddy? Like,
Yeah.
is that Ethan?
Yeah.
One of the brothers Volmer?
I actually don't know if playing Arks benefits me with Tau or not.
I've heard opinions, but I don't know.
I think that what did demons get hit with? A nerf to flamers. That's it.
It's a big one.
They got a few little points buffs or points nerfs as well, just on some of the most used stuff.
And I actually have to drop like a single crisis suit, so
I do think that they suffer. I actually think the Arks of Omen detachment may not be great for them, or at least some of them.
Oh, they have to play Mono God. They can't do their bullshit 17 greater demons.
Yeah, well, that part remains to be seen. I know there's some people who are saying, well, that maybe there's some allowances for it, but I mean, limiting them 4 HQs definitely does stop a 5 greater demon romp. So there's that. But yeah, I get the feeling like they're probably not as impacted as some of the more talked about armies are. So.
Interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how everything shakes out.
Yep.
It'll be good.
It's going to be very fun.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on Reddit. It's going to be very fun.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I guess, yeah, that kind of wraps up the cast this round. Let us know what your predictions are in the comments. Let us know if you think our predictions are pretty close or way off base. It's always good to interact with you guys and kind of see where you're all coming from. So,
what are your top 3 predictions for meta armies in Arks of Omen?
Yeah.
By the end of Adepticon, and we'll enter you into the draw for the Sarah Palin t-shirt.
Signed.
It's signed.
Signed by Bill.
Yeah, not by her.
Not by
her, but
by Bill.
I'll sign.
But it is signed.
Yeah. That'd be okay. Someone out there is gonna want that shirt. Probably more than I would.
Yeah, somebody.
Bill manages to win it
mysteriously. Weird.
It'll be a mysterious person who never identifies themselves, and then we'll just see Aiden wearing it 2 weeks later. So, but it's been good hanging out with you boys.
Yeah, as always. Thanks for jumping on, gents. Appreciate.
Thanks for having me on the podcast once again.
Yeah, and we'll definitely we'll bring some more 40k action to you guys soon.
Mm-hmm. Lots to talk about.
My dice to lead us out.
I can't get through the screen.
Yeah, damn. Cool, excellent.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, catch you all later.
Bye, friends.